Market Aurora.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my question is to the government House Leader.
We're going directly to you.
Speaker, you will know that last Thursday, in response to questions here as to when the government will allow a select committee of the Legislature to pursue the Ornge scandal, the House Leader, the government House Leader, said that he would look to the committee itself to self-determine those terms of reference and how it conducts business. We accepted him at his word, and I responded by saying we will then return to the Public Accounts Committee and bring forward a motion to make that request of the House. We did that this morning. I delivered a copy of that motion that was passed by the Public Accounts Committee this morning, making that specific request.
Question.
My question to the government House Leader: now that he has the express will of the Public Accounts Committee to expand those terms of reference, will he agree to bring that motion forward and pass it?
Thank you. House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member raises, I think, a valid point. That is Ornge, the Ornge situation, being properly examined? And, Mr. Speaker, I think it's worthwhile for everyone in this legislature to take a step back and begin with the fact that the Auditor General, an officer of this legislature, has done a comprehensive review of Ornge. Second, Mr. Speaker, the Public Accounts Committee, a standing committee of this legislature, which has been charged with all the powers and privileges of all standing committees of this legislature, is looking into the matter of Ornge. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, we have, as a result of the encouragement of the Minister of Health, we have the Ontario Provincial Police, which is looking into the Ornge situation. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we have a bill before this House, Bill 50, which, if it is passed, will presumably go to a committee and be the subject of investigation. Mr. Speaker, I want to reassure all members that Ornge is being looked into.
Supplementary.
Speaker, I have to say that I cannot believe the response from the government House Leader.
Worse than last week, even.
It was the government House Leader who said that he would rely on the Public Accounts Committee to determine for itself how to conduct this business. It was the Public Accounts Committee this morning that passed this motion that is now in the hands of the government House Leader. Alphaps himself said, when he appeared here last week, 30 minutes with a witness is not nearly enough to get the job done. We are now asking for an expanded terms of reference. What possible reason could the government House Leader have for not complying with the express will, first of all, of this legislature in a vote, second, of the expressed will of the Public Accounts Committee by this motion this morning? What reason could he possibly have for denying that request?
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you.
Read the truth. Read the truth.
The member from Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke will come to order. Government House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know the member would never want to leave the impression that the committee does not have the power to call witnesses forward and to set the amount of time that they can hear from witnesses. In fact, Mr. Speaker, it is my understanding that this afternoon the committee reorganized the number of witnesses and, in fact, extended the time for one witness to hear it. That is within the administrative purview of the committee, as in all standing committees. Mr. Speaker, the Public Accounts Committee is doing an outstanding job. This morning, for example, they heard from one Kelly Mitchell, a very, very prominent progressive conservative, a very close friend of the leader of the Conservative Party, who himself apparently was paid $400,000 to lobby and schmooze Conservative MPPs, and as we learned from the Toronto Star this morning, and I use their term, had hired Chris Maz's girlfriend as a way of providing her with employment. Mr. Speaker, there's lots coming out of this committee.
From Newmarket, Aurora.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. The Premier has heard the exchange that we have had with his government House Leader. We want to make this place work. We have put forward a very reasonable motion that was supported by the Public Accounts Committee. This motion was vetted by the clerks of the legislature. It is very much in order. We are simply asking for this legislature, for the government House Leader, to bring forward this motion. Would he at least bring it forward for a vote so that we can deal with this? We too want to get on with the business of this legislature. We're asking for only one thing, and that is to have the Public Accounts Committee have this motion passed so that we can do the work that we believe we have to do on this file. Thank you.
Premier. Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you. Premier.
Another standing no.
Speaker, I'm pleased to take the question, and I know
Order.
she's had 10 minutes to think of that, Speaker. I think we should leave committee questions to the work of the committee, but I can say that I do share I think the underlying desire on the part of the member opposite to move forward with government business. So I would ask on behalf of Ontarians, why is it they've rung the bell some 13 times in our Accepting Schools Act? Why have they rung the bells 10 times in our rent increase guideline bill, Speaker? Why have they rung it 6 times in our...
Order, please. Order, please. I do not get quiet so that somebody can else interject. Premier.
Speaker, I would suggest to my honourable colleagues in the official opposition that they consider that in the context of a minority government, their responsibility is somewhat elevated. Yep. They have to find a way to do the people's business. Ontarians are concerned about what's happening in their schools. They're concerned about what's happening in the economy, Speaker. They're concerned about what's happening in a number of fronts.
Supplementary.
Speaker, I want to answer this question for the people of Ontario. The Premier asked why the ringing of the bells. It is because we are trying to get the government to agree to an express will of this legislature and now to the express will of the Public Accounts Committee to change the terms of reference of the Public Accounts Committee so that we can do the business that we were sent here to do. I want to make this offer to the Premier, as I did to the Government House Leader. I can guarantee him that the bells will stop ringing as soon as they allow us to work under the terms of this motion. Will the Premier work with us? We'll stop the bells as soon as the Premier allows us to move forward on this motion.
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Please. The comments as you're seating is not helpful. Premier.
Community and Social Services.
House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, everyone recognizes the concerns at Ornge, and I remind members again, the Auditor General has looked into Ornge and produced a report going forward. The Ontario Provincial Police, at the encouragement of the Minister of Health, is investigating the Ornge situation. Mr. Speaker, there's a very, very important piece of legislation in front of this House which responds to the Auditor General, as well as numerous pieces of legislation which they are blocking through bell ringing. Mr. Speaker, that bill, if passed for second reading, would be in front of a committee. And finally, Mr. Speaker, a standing committee of this legislature, the Public Accounts Committee, which has all the powers and privileges of every committee, is looking into the Ornge situation. Mr. Speaker, the member stands up and somehow seems to feel it's a powerless committee. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, they can call any witness they want, and as we've seen today, they can hear that witness for any amount of time that they want.